what Trump is doing here is trying to squeeze Maduro and frighten him, but he's using military force in a way that's not authorized by Congress and is not authorized by international law.
Here's a story that's been bubbling around. Is Donald Trump heading towards war against Venezuela? The president said he's sort of made up his mind about what kind of military action to take against the country, which he blames for drug trafficking to the US. The Americans' most advanced aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R, has arrived in the region. It leads a force of more than a dozen warships and 15,000 troops in what is known as Operation Southern Spear. So what is the president doing? What are his options? Joining me now is Matthew Bryza, former US ambassador and White House and State Department official. Matthew, morning to you.
Good morning, Stig. Nice to be with you.
It's great to speak to you. What is it? What's the plan, do you think? Is there a plan?
Yeah, I think he hasn't finalized what the plan is. He sort of conducts foreign policy and national security policy in an improvisational way. But clearly, though, we know for sure part of the plan is already implemented, which is to target drug cartel assets, the boats. There have been 21 attacks allegedly on drug cartel boats from Venezuela. But I think he's also just trying to position U.S. military assets in a way that puts pressure on the Maduro regime, to try to quell the collaboration between the regime and the drug cartels, but B, maybe to force regime change, I think through political means, but not through military force, because 15,000 troops that are positioned now in the Caribbean is way too little to be able to invade and take over and conduct regime change.
So the notion of invading Venezuela, you think is unlikely?
I do. At least at this point. I was working in the White House back in 2001, 2004 when the U.S. invaded Iraq. And I remember how long it took. It took months and months to build up the necessary forces to get them from the U.S. into the theater. And so we would see the same if Trump planned to invade Venezuela. You need estimates are up to or at least 150,000 troops. And that's there are 15,000 now in theater. You need a long time to build it up.
Regime change used to be secret, the sort of preserve of intelligence services. One thinks of American interventions across Central America decades ago, but they used to be quiet, they're not really talked about. Is it odd to be spoken out loud in this way?
Well, it is unusual in the sense that President Trump also announced covert operations by the CIA against the Maduro regime. That's I've never heard of that before. So, but all that suggests to me, and the answer is yes, it's unusual. All that suggests to me that Trump is more intent on pressuring Maduro and getting into his head and scaring him rather than actually invading.
And why? What's the upside for him? There's the drug thing. Why does he want a non-leftist Venezuela?
Yeah, so the answer to that question, I think, is rooted in the new National Security Strategy, which hasn't been published yet, but is clearly going to place the Western Hemisphere at the center of U.S. foreign policy. So China will be second, and trade, and then Europe a distant third, maybe. It's a fortress America foreign policy, and Venezuela is seen by the Trump administration as a sort of an oozing sore in terms of narcotics and collaboration with organized crime. There's a sort of an alliance among several Bolivarian, they call them, states that include Ecuador and now Colombia, and Trump's accounting even El Salvador, that are collaborating with drug cartels, which creates instability in the Western Hemisphere. And Venezuela is the cause of a lot, and the Venezuelan regime, a cause of a lot of migration and attempts then to enter the United States illegally. So if you want a fortress America in the Western Hemisphere, Venezuela is a big problem.
What strikes me about this, I know there's always been extrajudicial killings by both parties when they're in the White House. It is a feature of the American system, but these are people who are drug dealers. Well, drug dealing is a crime, and historically in America, if someone is committing a crime, the answer is to arrest them and prosecute them and give them fair justice. The current system, this is not terrorism we're talking about, this is about drug dealing. The current system seems to be, if I see a drug dealer on a Venezuelan boat, the president can authorize his extrajudicial death.
Oh, I totally agree, Stig. This is utterly illegal. The President Trump has designated the drug cartels terrorist organizations, but we know, as you say, this is a criminal situation. And so if there's a crime being committed, yes, there needs to be due process according to the U.S. Constitution, regardless of or amendments, regardless of whether or not the perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, are American citizens. On top of that, if you're just targeting boats and destroying them, you're destroying the evidence. And so you actually cannot bring a criminal case. You know, it's also really strange that in one of the cases recently, when a couple of the alleged drug traffickers on one of the boats survived, they were returned to, I believe it was Colombia, rather than apprehended by the U.S. and then tried in a U.S. court. So the U.S. is behaving in a way that is completely at odds with international law in this case.
But with impunity.
Yep, 100%. Yes, yes, and you know, I think again that what Trump is doing here is trying to squeeze Maduro and frighten him, but he's using military force in a way that's not authorized by Congress and is not authorized by international law.
It's so interesting what he's doing in that part of the world. Matthew, great to speak to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dick.
That's Matthew Bryza, the former US Ambassador, White House and State Department official.
And Matthew's backdrop, absolutely amazing. Looks like he's in a treehouse.
Yeah, I believe he's in a European country where it is not cold and grey.
Beautiful.
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
You said Venezuela wants to talk. What does that mean?
Venezuela would like to talk. What does it mean? You tell me. I don't know.
You want to talk to them?
I talk to anybody. I talk to you, right? I talk to anybody. We'll see what happens.
The people of the United States, listen to me. War of Caribbean, war South America, no. War eternal, no. Peace,
Yes.
peace for American.
Yes.